Hi, so I'm going to do something a little bit interesting here. I'm just going to walk through making a D&D character in D&D 5th edition. If people like this, then I might go ahead and do this for a few other systems, Vampire the Masquerade, Exalted 2nd edition. I might be brave and branch into Exalted 3rd edition. But let's start with Dungeons and Dragons. I'm just going to be using things from the player's handbook, and then this is the character sheet I'm going to go with. And the way that I typically start is I come up with sort of the interesting playstyle gimmick for a character, and then I figure out the backstory from there. Let's go ahead and start by taking a look, though, at what we've got as our options here. We've got our classes: Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. I haven't made a monk in a while, so let's go ahead and move forward and look at monks as where we're going to start this build. So that is on page 76, so let's go down to there. So let's see, that's our paladins, so monk is right before that. Alright, so we've got our monks. Obviously these are your unarmed martial fighters as seen in every wushu film ever. And we're going to see what we've got here. We've got our key points, of course. We've got our monastic traditions. We've got Way of the Open Hand, which is fun but a little bit boring. We've got Way of the Four Elements, which is the last monk that I made. I was doing a Avatar: The Last Airbender themed campaign. And then we've got Way of Shadow. And I haven't played a Way of Shadow monk, so I'm going to go with this. And we take a look, and what do they have? We've got Shadow Arts at 3rd level, so this isn't really going to come into play yet, but we want to be ready to build up to this. And we can look forward here at, like, alright, what are we going to need out of this character, and what is this character already going to get? This is someone who is going to be doing a lot with darkness, with shadow. This is also, interestingly, as we look through this, not someone who automatically gets dark vision, which seems like it's going to be a pretty big problem. Yeah, that's a little surprising. So they're not going to get dark vision. So one of the first things I see is that for mechanics, I want this person to have dark vision. That's going to inform what we take as our race. So let's go ahead and we're going to fill in. We're going to make this a level 1 character. So we know we're going for Way of Shadow, but they're not that yet. So we're going to fill that in. Monk. And we'll go ahead and put in Monk 1. Okay. We know that we're going to be a monk. We know that we want dark vision. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at race. We're going to come back to monk to fill in those details in a little bit. So we're going to go all the way back up. Sorry if that's a little bit disorienting. And we're going to look through what our race options are. And you'll note that I'm ignoring the direction they say to go with this. As far as order. Alright, so dwarves. What's our main thing that we worry about first right now? Our main thing, dark vision. Great, dwarves have dark vision. They are viable. They get a constitution increase, that's cool. So now let's think about why is our dwarf a monk? Alright, Way of Shadow's monk might actually make a lot of sense for a dwarf, right? You think about raised underground in caves, learning to sort of treat the darkness not as a sign of evil, but as the natural state of the world, right? You're always living in dim light and darkness underground. So that's actually very compelling to me. Hill dwarves get a wisdom score increase, which is nifty and is useful for a monk. And mountain dwarves get a strength score increase, which can also be good for our monk for damage. Yeah, a dwarf monk has some actually interesting potential, so we might go with that. But let's take another look. All right, we've got elves. Obviously, they've got dark vision. Dexterity, also always good for a monk for that unarmored defense. You want the high dexterity. Wood elves, I believe, we'll go take a look. Yes, have a wisdom score increase. And they're a little bit faster than everyone else. So, okay, that makes some sense. It's not speaking to me, though. Wood elven monk, I don't know. It's not interesting. It's not compelling to me. So we're going to move past them. Yeah, I'm just not feeling elves for some reason today. Halflings, we go down, we take a look. They don't have, one of our key things that we're worried about is we want dark vision. Halflings don't have it. We're going to skip them for that reason, right? We're worrying about that. Humans as well. We're just going to have to skip over. Dragonborn, I believe we are going to skip as well. Yep, we look at them and lots of cool things for a Dragonborn. Dark vision, not one of them. Gnomes. Gnomes have dark vision. Gnomes come with an intelligence increase, which isn't very useful to us, but they also have that sort of underground life thing going on. I think that could have some potential. Forest gnomes get a dexterity increase. All right, so there's some interesting potential here. We get some double up. That minor illusion comes from Shadow Monk as well. So I'm not really feeling this. I am leaning more and more toward, half elves. I'm not a huge fan of half elves. I'll be honest. Orcs. Do orcs get orcs? That's an interesting potential. Orcs do get dark vision. Okay, so I think we're between an orc and a dwarf. Mostly because I don't think I've seen anyone in my playgroups do a dwarf. We are going to go back to a dwarven monk. I've seen orcish monks a few times, but we're going to go with a dwarf. So let's scroll on back up to our dwarf entry, and we're going to take a look at what we get out of this. And it occurs to me that the Player's Handbook is not alphabetized for some reason. Alright, so we're going for race dwarf, and I think we are going to go for hill dwarf specifically. We want that bonus. Hill dwarf. Let's go for a lawful neutral. I think that feels right for this character. And what do we get? We get a +2 to Constitution. I'm just going to mark that right here on the side. Age. Alright, we won't worry about age. That's sort of a thing that you can decide for yourself. Size, again, we're not going to worry about that. Speed, 25 feet. That's going to be offset later by monk abilities. And then dark vision into this is our features and traits panel here. Size, they are still medium. Dark vision, dwarven resilience, advantage on saving throws against poison. I sure would like a spot up here. I'm used to a different character sheet. So we're going to say advantage on saves versus poison. And then dwarven combat training, we have proficiency with, oh, that's interesting, with battle axe, hand axe, throwing hammer, and warhammer. So this gives us, this is actually interesting. We might be able to do something clever with this. We'll take a look at the specifics of monk abilities in a bit. Proficiency with our choice of smith tools, brewer's supplies, or mason's tools. I kind of like mason's tools for this character. This is one of those things where I'm sort of trying to come up with this character as I go. And I'm thinking, all right, they were at a monastery underground. What did they do? And there's something interesting about maybe this is a monastery that holds the old secrets of dwarven craftsmanship, right? And that especially goes in with our stone cunning here, where we are proficient in the history skill, and in fact it looks like we have expertise in history with relation to stonework. We're just going to write stone cunning down in features and traits, and I'm just going to have to remember what that is, just because I don't want to copy too much. And let's see, does this sheet? No, this sheet does not have a spot for that. So we are just going to go ahead, make this a little more legible to me. And we're going to put languages here in our proficiencies, so we get Common and Dwarvish. And then subrace. So Hill Dwarf, we get our Wisdom score increase, so we'll just mark that here. And then 1 additional hit point every level. We're going to write that as Dwarven Toughness. And we're just going to put a +1 here, +1 here, so that we remember that in character creation. All right, so we've got taken care of, we know what our class is, we know what our race is. Now we can think about background a little bit. We can think about, all right, our hill dwarf in this monastery that sort of sees darkness as a neutral thing, not as a threat. We live underground. the darkness is maybe not our ally. There are evil, scary things in it, but we're also in it, and we're not evil and scary. We understand that it just is. It's a tool to our use, seeing the balance in all things. What is a good background for this character? So let's go find where the backgrounds are in this book, and we can see that is on page 100. Wow, why did they put it at the end? They say to do that later. Okay. Page 121. You can tell that it's been a little while since I've made a character by actually going through the book and not just jumping to character options, because I'm sitting here saying, why did they organize it this way? That doesn't make any sense. I highly recommend White Wolf Games / Onyx Path Games for even worse organized books. I adore Vampire the Masquerade and Exalted, but my god, the books are illegible. Alright, Acolyte. Obvious choice for a monk. Always a good option. We're going to leave it alone for now and see if there's something more interesting. Charlatan, not feeling criminal. No, this guy was raised in a monastery. Folk hero. Guild artisan. Okay, so this is, I think, our other really good option here. If this is sort of a monastery devoted to craftsmanship, maybe guild artisan, maybe that's giving us what we want mechanically for this backstory, and we just sort of modify to say what it actually means personality-wise. So that's a potential. Guild artisan. Hermit, no. Part of a monastery. They've got other people that they have learned from and worked with. They didn't live out in the middle of nowhere. Noble, also no. Outlander, no. Sage, no. Sailor, clearly not. Soldier, maybe. Maybe they were a soldier before they went to the monastery. That could be. That has some potential. Urchin, again, what were they before they went into the monastery, before they started learning? I think that there is some interest to be had with Urchin. That is also just one of my favorite backgrounds to go with. Because it's my favorite, we're not going to do it. So let's take a look. I am honestly kind of feeling Guild Artisan. I think that's got some real potential here. Guild Artisan, we're going to do that. And this is, again, we've started from a concept, a mechanic of, great, we want to do a Way of Shadow Monk. I see that they don't get dark vision. They kind of need it. Where do we go from there? And that's been our basis for this whole thing. So we're going to go now Guild Artisan for this guy. And what does that give? That gives Insight and Persuasion. So we'll go and check those off. Insight and Persuasion. Another type of Artisan's tools. We're just going to mark that down real quick. We'll come back to that later. We'll come back to what that means. Chances are we're going to go for Smith's tools. That feels right. But maybe there's something else that we can go with. Navigator's tools might be interesting. Maybe they're good at mapping. You know what? We're going with Navigator's tools. They're good at mapping the tunnels. So they are holders of old knowledge, not just of how the dwarvish construction went, but where is everything? How do we map this out? I'm not sure if that should be. Should that be Navigator's tools or Cartographer's tools? We'll leave it as Navigators for now, and we'll figure out if we want to change it for that later. Languages, another of your choice. So we've got Common, we've got Dwarvish. Let's go with Gnomish. We're dealing with the other underground races, mostly. And then equipment is going to be, so we get a set of Artisan's tools of your choice. We're going to go with those Mason's tools, I think. They're mostly interested in having that. Letter from, instead of the guild, we're going to say letter from monastery. We're off on a quest to, is that not how I spell monastery? Okay, there we go. So this is actually from the monastery, because again, we're modifying this a little bit. Traveler's clothes, and 15 gold pieces. Great. Guild business, we don't need to worry about. All right. Instead, so we're going to do something a little bit odd here. These are the suggested characteristics. We're actually going to, I know we've picked everything from Guild Artisan. We're actually going to go back up to Acolyte, though. We're going to do something a little funky, and we're going to take our traits from Acolyte. So, I believe here we're supposed to get 2 from personality trait, is what I've always done. And we're going to grab these. So, all right. personality trait, hero of faith. Common ground between the fiercest enemies. We're already saying this is a character who sees the balance in darkness, that it's neither good nor evil, it simply is. So I think common ground between fiercest enemies makes sense. So, find common ground. We're just gonna make that a little shorter. And then, let's see. I kind of like, we've got someone here who doesn't have proficiency in religion, even though they're a monk. So I kind of like this fifth option here of I misquote sacred texts. I don't actually know this character. Yeah, this is getting interesting. This is someone who has sort of a good philosophical grounding, but maybe doesn't have the background reading. So, misquote sacred texts. Alright, ideals. Tradition, right there, tradition. The ancient traditions of worship and sacrifice must be preserved. So in tradition, and in this case that tradition is sort of the dwarvish way of life, the way that we build things, the way that we explore tunnels and mine, love of the underground, a respect for natural caves and beauty, and also understanding how to modify that without, damaging the ecosystem, perhaps. So you see, we're already getting a good shape of this. All right, bond. Let's see. Interesting. Yeah, let's go with preserve sacred texts. This is feeling a little bit weak to me. The bond always feels a little bit weak to me. Because generally a DM has a story that they're looking to tell, and the bond is how they can work in a plot hook for your character. I think that generally DMs should do more with them. I think that that's sort of the weakness. It's not that bonds are a weakness in character design, it's that they get used infrequently, I think. But we're going to go ahead and preserve a sacred text. Yeah. And that's probably, considering this, darkness has these connotations of evil to a lot of the world, and this sacred text probably has something to do with, no, it's not. That's not what it is. It simply is. It's a hammer, right? If you can use it to build yourself a house, and you can use it to murder someone. It's just a hammer. Alright, flaw. Let's see here. Inflexible, that's potential. Maybe too much trust. Too much trust in temple hierarchy. Yeah, so maybe there's some nefarious goings on in this temple. Maybe someone is skimming the donation money, or building themselves a nice summer house, or taking advantage of the faithful, and I just don't see it. I'm not noticing that. I've got my nose in my stonecraft and my martial arts training, and haven't noticed what's going on. Alright, next up, now that we've got a good shape of this character, I want to go ahead and set our ability scores. And so for that, I know ahead of time, sort of having made characters before, that dexterity and wisdom are important to monks. And what we're going to do, I know a lot of people will roll 4d6, drop low. We're going to just do the standard stat block here. This must just be... Okay, so we're going to go here into character creation again to get us some ability scores. So choose a race, choose that. Hit points and hit dice. We don't need that. Ability scores. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the standard point buy here. So we've got a 15, a 14, a 13, a 12, a 10, and an 8. We've already got our bonuses listed for being a dwarf. And when I look at this, I know that we want high wisdom. That's important. So we've got this 15 here, plus 1, that's a 16 in wisdom. That's pretty solid. We'll go with that. Next up, dexterity is clearly going to be important. Let's throw our 14 there. For our 13, this is where things get interesting, right? So I know, looking at this, Constitution is going to be good for this character. They can take a hit. So we're going to put our 12 into Constitution, which will then become a 14. So we can just do that right now. And then, as I look at this, I've got a 13, a 10, and an 8. I am inclined to throw the 8 in Intelligence. And the reason I want to do that is we've already established this character hasn't noticed some of the nefarious goings on in the temple that they're from. So with high wisdom, I need to justify that. As I look at the rest of this, I now have the choice of what's higher, strength or charisma. This mechanically won't make a difference with this will make a difference. I've got a 13 and a 10. I think that I actually want to put the 10 in strength and the 13 in charisma. In general, I like to make characters that can at least kind of talk. That seems like a good thing. I've got proficiency in persuasion. Maybe I should back that up with a little bit of charisma. And so then we can go through and we can give our ability score bonuses. I know some people flip how they do this. I like to do it this way. So we got a 2, a -1 for intelligence, a 3, and then a +1 for charisma. So that's a pretty solid starting character right there. Let's go ahead and now go to Monk. What page was that on? Monk is on page 76, and I no longer trust the PDF to scroll properly. Here we go, Monk. So, at level 1, and this is sort of the fun thing that we get to actually go through and do a level 1 character, which I haven't done for a while. So, first things first, our proficiency bonus is +2. And we look at this and like, all right, what do we get? We get simple weapons and short swords in proficiency. All right, that's fun. Choose one type of artisan's tools or one musical instrument. Okay, we have 2 types of artisan's tools already. Let's give this guy a musical instrument. Let's go with, I think it would be fun to have him play a woodwind, something that'll echo off the cave walls. So let's give him a flute. That seems fun. And then saving throws are strength and dexterity, and we can go ahead and now fill in what we've got going on here. So strength is going to be a +2, dexterity is a +4, constitution is a 2, intelligence is a -1, that's worrisome, 3 for wisdom, 1 for charisma. Skills, 2 from acrobatics, athletics, history, insight, religion, and stealth. Let's double check. I think that we get stealth from Way of the Shadow. Let's double check. We don't. Okay, let's get some stealth. We're gonna be in the shadows. We're gonna be a shadow boy. Just a nice little shadow boy living in the shadows. Let's get some stealth. And as a side note, I do think that it's important for a party to have people that aren't the rogue who can stealth, because that means that when your rogue or whoever you've got as your sort of scout goes off ahead of the party, they don't have to be alone, right? You don't have to split the party into all the people in heavy armor and the rogue, which happens so often. We've already decided that we don't know our religion. We misquote the sacred text that we want to preserve. So we're going to go with athletics or acrobatics. Athletics or acrobatics. Let's go acrobatics. Let's play to the strengths. We are a spry little dwarf. And so we can now go ahead and fill in all of this. So we have 4 there, we've got 3 there, we've got a -1 there. Oh, why did I make intelligence dump set? I never do that. I'm very uncomfortable with my -1s. 3, 1, -1. Good Lord, this poor idiot. At least they've got good perception. And they're decent at persuasion. Wow, they're very bad at being a monk. They are not good at religion. This is actually kind of amusing to me. And there, and then a 3, and then our passive perception, that's just 10 plus our perception score, so that's a 13. So, let's see, what else do we get? We get our unarmored defense, which we'll note. Which is not extravagant right now. Dex plus Wiz is going to give us an armor class of 15. While we're up here, let's go ahead and put in our initiative bonus of 2. That's just our dexterity modifier. And then let's see, martial arts. We have all of this stuff. First level, when you practice this, you get the following benefits. You can use Dex instead of Strength, which is important to us because we have very bad Strength. And we roll a d4, so let's go ahead and unarmed strike, and I'm not gonna note this in here. That's just a lot. Interesting. Interesting. You might use a club using your and monk weapons. I'm going to make an argument here that I think a lot of DMs would probably allow, at least I would, that this is a dwarf from a monastery devoted to craftsmanship. I think that hammers and warhammers should be his monk weapons. But we're still going to note down our our unarmed, and the attack bonus for that is using dexterity, so that is a +4, not great, and 1d4 +2. This is not a particularly threatening character at level 1, and in all honesty, it shouldn't be. A level 1 character isn't a huge threat. Let's deal with our hit points here. We get first level 8 plus con mod, and because of Dwarven Toughness plus an additional 1, so that gives us an 11 hit point maximum, which is pretty good for a level 1 character. That's not bad. We've got all of that. Short sword or simple weapon. So we're gonna go ahead and look at that in a second here. But this is basically a character done. We've got some equipment to take care of. We have our throwing hammer. It's not gonna let me do that. Throw ham. There. Are you kidding me? Throw ham. There we go. Throw ham. And then we've got our war ham, just to keep with the theme, since we've been given that. Equipment, we get 10 darts, which I guess we are proficient in, technically. Any simple weapon is going to almost certainly be a hammer of some sort, so we'll add that in a moment. Let's go with then Dungeoneer's Pack. And then we also have 10 darts, which I'm just going to note that up here. Alright, and that is a level 1 monk from start to finish. We do need a name still, and normally I would go to Fantasy Name Generator, but since this is sort of just a made-up little character, I'm going to just make up a little name for this guy. I'm going to go with Jurgen, and I'm going to spell it very strangely. So there's Jurgen. And let's give him Jurgen. Does he need a last name? Jurgen of the Deeps. Jurgen of the Deeps. There we go. Jurgen of the Deeps, our Hill Dwarf Guild Artisan Monk, level 1. And as we level him up, obviously, he will get cooler things that he can do. I hope that this was useful. Let me know if it was. And we can maybe explore some other systems that are a little less well known. I know that Shadowrun, for example, is a very confusing system to make a character in. Exalted, likewise. The newest edition of Vampire the Masquerade is a bit easier, but the older editions were dense, shall we say. And I'm also always happy to revisit older editions of D&D. I was brought up in 3rd and 3.5, so I enjoy the more complex stuff sometimes. Thank you and have a good day.